I spent 6 years building what I thought was a perfect life with my wife Emma. Our modern home, my successful architecture firm, and the close circle of friends we had cultivated together all seemed to reflect a dream come true. Jason, my friend since childhood and now my business partner, had been with me through everything: my parents' divorce, college struggles, and the early days of my career. I never imagined that a random glance at Emma's unlocked phone would reveal the ultimate betrayal. The two people I trusted most were having an affair behind my back. What I discovered that day changed everything, but not in the way either of them expected. Before I reveal how I discovered their affair and what I did about it, drop a comment, letting me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you've ever had your trust shattered by someone close to you. I worked my way through architecture school, taking out loans and working nights at a local bar to cover expenses. After graduating with honors, I turned down offers from prestigious firms to start my own practice. The first 2 years were brutal, working from a converted garage, taking any project that came my way, and reinvesting every dollar I earned. By 30, my small practice had grown into Bradford Architectural Design, a respected firm specializing in sustainable luxury homes. My personal life, however, lagged behind my professional success. Long hours left little time for dating, and a few short-term relationships fizzled due to my dedication to the business. That changed 5 years ago when I attended a charity gala for a housing nonprofit my firm had partnered with. Emma was there representing her marketing agency, which handled publicity for the event. She stood out immediately, not just for her beauty with auburn hair and intelligent green eyes, but for her confidence. When our conversation moved from polite small talk to a spirited debate about gentrification in downtown development, I was captivated. She challenged my perspectives while remaining respectful, showing both intelligence and emotional awareness that I rarely encountered. We exchanged numbers that night, and within a week, we were inseparable. Emma's ambition matched my own. She was on track to become the youngest partner at her marketing firm, regularly securing major clients with her innovative campaigns. We understood each other's dedication to our careers while still making time for our relationship. After a year of dating, I proposed during a weekend trip to the coast. Our wedding was intimate but elegant, with 100 of our closest friends and family. Jason stood beside me as my best man, just as he had been beside me through every significant moment of my life. We met in 3rd grade when I defended him from bullies on the playground. Through my parents' bitter divorce when I was 12, Jason's home became my sanctuary. We were roommates in college, and while I focused on architecture, he pursued business with dreams of becoming a real estate developer. Our paths diverged after graduation. My firm slowly gained traction while Jason bounced between development companies, never quite finding his footing. When Emma and I got married, Jason was still struggling professionally, working for a developer who undervalued his contributions. I made it my mission to integrate him into our lives, insisting to Emma that my oldest friend should be part of our inner circle. "You will love him once you get to know him," I assured her when she seemed hesitant after their first few interactions. "He just takes time to warm up to new people." Eventually, Emma acquiesced, and Jason became a regular presence at our dinner parties, weekend barbecues, and holiday celebrations. 3 years into our marriage, my firm secured several major projects, and I needed to expand. Against the advice of my other partners, I offered Jason a position handling business development and client relations. "He needs this chance," I explained to my skeptical colleagues. "I trust him completely." With Jason now part of the firm and Emma's recent promotion, our lives seemed perfectly aligned. We purchased a beautiful modern home with a view of the city, took a memorable vacation to Italy, and began tentatively discussing starting a family. From the outside, we epitomized success, the power couple, with fulfilling careers and a solid marriage. There were signs I missed looking back. Emma started attending more client dinners that ran late into the evening. She updated her wardrobe with more stylish, expensive pieces, and became increasingly protective of her phone, changing her password and positioning the screen away from me when texting. I attributed these changes to her new position and increased responsibilities. Jason, too, behaved differently. He began subtly criticizing my design choices in meetings, suggesting I was out of touch with current trends. He repeatedly encouraged me to attend conferences and site visits alone, offering to hold down the fort at the office. When I mentioned bringing Emma along on a business trip to Chicago, he quickly pointed out how busy she was with her own work. "You two need some healthy space," he insisted. "All the best marriages have room for independence." 6 months ago, I started planning our anniversary weekend working overtime to afford the sapphire bracelet Emma had admired. The week before our anniversary, we attended a business dinner with potential investors. I noticed strange tension between Emma and Jason, meaningful glances, an awkward moment when their hands touched, reaching for the wine, Jason's unusually sharp tone when I discussed our upcoming anniversary plans. Still, I suspected nothing. Not until that Wednesday afternoon when everything changed. I was supposed to meet with a major client that day, but he called to reschedule while I was en route to his office. With the unexpected free time, I decided to head home early and finish anniversary preparations. I stopped for flowers and champagne, planning to leave them as a surprise for Emma to find when she returned from work. When I entered our house, I noticed Emma's purse on the counter. She must have forgotten it in her morning rush. Next to it lay her phone screen lighting up with an incoming message. I had no intention of snooping, but the preview was visible from where I stood. "Last night was amazing. I cannot stop thinking about how you felt against me." Heart emoji. The sender was Jason. I stood frozen, flowers still in hand, as my brain tried to process what I was seeing. Surely there was some explanation, some misunderstanding. My hand trembled as I set down the bouquet and picked up her phone. It was unlocked. Emma must have been using it moments before forgetting it. Against every principle of privacy I had always respected, I opened the message thread. What I found destroyed my world in an instant. Months of messages between them, each more intimate than the last. Photos they had exchanged. Plans for their meetups carefully scheduled around my business trips and late nights at the office. Hotel receipts, inside jokes about me. I scrolled back to find the beginning of their betrayal. It started during our trip to Italy the previous summer, while I was confined to our hotel room with food poisoning for 2 days. Jason had joined us for the second week of our vacation, a decision I had pushed for despite Emma's initial reluctance. "Brad is finally asleep," one message from Emma read. "Meet me by the pool in 10 minutes. I felt physically ill sitting at our kitchen counter reading through their deception. They had been meeting at Jason's apartment on nights Emma claimed to be working late. They had snuck away together during group events, sometimes returning to the same room where I waited unaware. They discussed how they would continue seeing each other, without disrupting their respective situations. The financial betrayal hit next. 3 months ago, Jason had convinced me to invest a significant amount in a property development that he claimed would yield exceptional returns. The messages revealed the truth. It was intended to become their future home once they figured out the Brad situation. I sat in my car in our garage for hours, engine off, staring blankly ahead as my mind replayed every interaction between them. I could remember reinterpreting each through this new horrible lens. When Emma's car pulled into the driveway, I forced myself to go inside and act normal. She kissed me hello, asked about my day, and mentioned a work emergency she needed to handle that evening. I nodded and smiled, my heart turning to stone as she told me not to wait up. The week that followed was the most excruciating of my life. I maintained a facade of normalcy while secretly consulting with a lawyer, documenting evidence and investigating the extent of their betrayal. I learned to dissociate during conversations with both of them, watching their performances with a strange detachment. We attended a dinner party that weekend with mutual friends. I observed them with new awareness, the subtle glances, how they positioned themselves to briefly touch while serving food, their coded language. "The Robertson project is getting complicated," Jason said at one point, looking meaningfully at Emma. Later, she mentioned having to review those documents we discussed before excusing herself to the bathroom. Jason followed 3 minutes later. The same evening, Jason pulled me aside to discuss an incredible opportunity that required another $100,000 investment from me. I nodded enthusiastically, pretending to be interested while recording our conversation on my phone. The final straw came when I discovered a pregnancy test in our bathroom trash. Negative result, but clearly recent. We had been using protection for months while deciding when to start trying. The test could only have been for a pregnancy she feared might be Jason's. 2 days later, I overheard Emma on the phone in our home office. Yes, he leaves Tuesday for the Denver conference. 3 full days. I can stay over both nights. A pause. I know I cannot wait either. It has been too long since Chicago. Another pause. He does not suspect anything. You know, Brad always focused on work. In that moment, my decision was made. I would not confront them emotionally. I would respond strategically. I canceled my registration for the Denver conference, but maintained the pretense of attending. Instead of telling Emma, I contacted Susan Parker, reputed as the most ruthless divorce attorney in the city. During our first meeting, I laid out the evidence I had gathered. "You have done remarkably well keeping your composure," Susan noted, reviewing the messages and recordings. "Most clients come in after a blow-up that compromises their position." With Susan's guidance, I began methodical preparation. I secured copies of all financial records, changed passwords on my personal accounts, and opened a separate bank account at a new bank. While reviewing company finances, I discovered something even more disturbing. Jason had been manipulating accounts, diverting funds to personal use. The property investment I had made was never properly registered. The money had simply disappeared into an LLC that traced back to him alone. I hired a forensic accountant who documented approximately $340,000 in misappropriated funds. With this evidence, I contacted the police and filed reports for fraud. For the supposed conference dates, I booked a room at a different hotel in Denver, but in the same city. I hired Thomas Reeves, a private investigator with law enforcement background, to document their meeting. "I need irrefutable evidence," I explained. "Photos, video, audio, everything admissible in court." On Tuesday, I pretended to leave for the airport, hugging Emma goodbye, as she promised to hold down the fort at home. Instead, I checked into my hotel and waited for Thomas's updates. By evening, he confirmed Emma had checked into the Westlake Hotel downtown, the same hotel where Jason had reserved a suite for 3 nights. At 9:30 that night, I met Thomas in the hotel lobby. He showed me photos of Emma and Jason entering the hotel separately and meeting at the bar before heading to the suite together. "We have audio confirmation as well," he assured me. "Enough for both divorce proceedings and fraud charges." With hotel security accompanying us due to the fraud investigation, we approached the suite. The security manager knocked, announcing himself. When Jason opened the door in a bathrobe, his expression shifted from annoyance to shock upon seeing me standing there, calm and collected. Brad, Emma gasped from inside the room, clutching a sheet around herself. "This is not what it looks like." "Actually, it is exactly what it looks like," I replied, my voice steady. "An affair between my wife and my business partner, who is also embezzling from our company." What followed was exactly what I had expected. Emma burst into tears, claiming she felt neglected by my work schedule, insisting it was just physical and meaningless. Jason attempted to deflect, suggesting I had driven Emma away with my ambition and absence. "She was lonely, man. You were never there for her." I remained silent until they finished their performances. Then I simply handed Emma an envelope containing divorce papers. "Your belongings will be packed and delivered to your parents' home tomorrow," I informed her. "The locks have already been changed." Turning to Jason, I added, "The police have been notified about the missing funds. They will want to speak with you." Jason's face drained of color. "You cannot be serious. We can work this out. I will return the money." $340,000, I asked. "I doubt that. The fraud division seemed very interested in your creative accounting." Jason lunged toward the door, but hotel security blocked his path. "Sir, we need you to remain here until the police arrive," the security manager stated firmly. The most powerful moment came when I simply turned and walked away, ignoring their calls and pleas. I returned to my hotel room and slept better than I had. In weeks, the weight of deception finally lifted. The following days brought the expected drama. Emma showing up at my sister's house, where I was staying temporarily, sending mutual friends as emissaries, leaving tearful voicemails. Jason alternated between threats and desperate offers to return what he had taken if I would drop the charges. I communicated solely through my attorney, documenting every interaction. The most surprising realization during this period was that I felt more betrayed by Jason than by Emma. A marriage of 6 years had been violated, yes, but a friendship spanning almost my entire life had been desecrated. The depth of that betrayal cut deeper than I had anticipated. Alone in my sister's guest room one night, staring at old photos of Jason and me as children, teenagers, college students, I confronted the grief of losing not just my marriage, but my oldest friendship. The foundation, upon which I had built my understanding of loyalty, had crumbled, leaving me questioning my judgment and ability to trust. 6 months after that night at the hotel, my divorce was finalized. Emma received the standard division of assets required by state law, but my careful documentation prevented her from claiming alimony or additional property. The sapphire bracelet I never gave her for our anniversary was sold with proceeds donated to a shelter for victims of domestic abuse. Jason faced more severe consequences. With clear evidence of embezzlement, he was charged with multiple counts of fraud. To avoid maximum prison time, he accepted a plea deal that included restitution probation and a felony record that would effectively end his career in financial management. I purchased his share of the company at a court-mandated reduced value, assuming full control of the firm I had built from nothing. The hardest part was facing our social circle. I decided early on to present the facts without bitterness, refusing to engage in character assassination despite the temptation. Emma and I have divorced due to her infidelity with Jason, who also defrauded our company, I would state simply when asked. I am moving forward and would prefer not to discuss the details. This approach preserved my dignity and, surprisingly, most of my social connections. Friends who had known us as a couple largely remained in my life, with only a few choosing sides or distancing themselves from the drama entirely. Professional colleagues I had worried might lose confidence in my judgment instead rallied around me. My other partners who had initially questioned bringing Jason into the firm demonstrated remarkable loyalty. "You gave someone a chance based on your history," my partner Michael told me. "That speaks to your character, not your judgment." Therapy became an essential part of my recovery. Dr. Winters helped me process the simultaneous grief of losing both spouse and friend, while challenging me to examine my own role in our relationship dynamics. Yes, I had worked long hours building our financial security. Yes, I had sometimes prioritized projects over date nights. But as Dr. Winters emphasized repeatedly, nothing justifies betrayal. They made continuous choices to deceive you. That responsibility lies entirely with them. 3 months after the divorce, I took a sabbatical from work. With the firm stable under my partner's guidance, I embarked on a solo journey through Europe, deliberately choosing countries and cities Emma and I had never visited together. In Amsterdam, Barcelona, and Prague, I rediscovered parts of myself that had been subsumed by my identity as husband and business owner. In an Amsterdam cafe, I met Sophia, an American art curator working on an international exhibition. Our conversation began with a shared laugh over a waiter's misunderstanding and extended into hours of discussion about art, architecture, and eventually, our parallel experiences of betrayal. Her ex-husband had left her for her sister, a pain she described as having 2 deaths in the family while both people still lived. We exchanged contacts without expectations, occasionally sending each other photos or observations from our travels. When I returned home, our communication continued, honest, measured, and refreshingly direct. We both acknowledged our wariness about relationships, agreeing to move forward as friends first, with complete transparency about our feelings and fears. 8 months after my discovery of the affair, I encountered Emma at a restaurant downtown. She was dining alone, looking noticeably thinner and less vibrant. When our eyes met, she attempted a smile that did not reach her eyes. I nodded politely and continued to my table without approaching her. Through mutual friends, I learned that Jason had moved to Phoenix after his legal troubles concluded, presumably to escape the reputation that followed him in our city. Within 2 months of relocating, he had apparently betrayed Emma, as well becoming involved with a wealthy divorcee who could further his diminished career prospects. Emma discovered this exactly as I had, through an unguarded phone message, coming full circle in the experience of betrayal. I felt no satisfaction in her pain, only a distant recognition that patterns tend to repeat themselves. Those who betray once often betray again when circumstances align. My architecture firm thrived under my renewed focus and vision. We won an international competition to design a sustainable community center bringing positive attention and new clients. I hired young, talented architects who brought fresh perspectives, creating a collaborative environment based on mutual respect and transparent communication. Sophia eventually relocated to a museum in my city, and our friendship evolved gradually into a relationship defined by honest communication. We established clear boundaries and expectations from the beginning, checking in regularly about comfort levels and concerns. When I found myself withholding thoughts or feelings out of habit, I practiced the vulnerability Dr. Winters had encouraged, sharing my fears directly rather than protecting myself through silence. Trust is rebuilt one brick at a time, Sophia said during a conversation about our progress. And each brick needs to be solid. The most profound lesson from my experience was understanding that true character reveals itself not through words or promises, but through choices under pressure. Both Emma and Jason had shown themselves to be people who prioritized their desires over their commitments, their momentary happiness over integrity. I have come to feel strangely grateful for the painful discovery that freed me from relationships built on false foundations. Had I not found that message, I might have spent decades investing in people who did not value loyalty as I did. The experience clarified my own values and strengthened my resolve to live by them regardless of others' choices. Today, my life bears little resemblance to what it was 2 years ago. My home's social circle and daily routines have all transformed. Yet I feel more authentically myself than ever before, grounded in hard-won wisdom about what truly matters in relationships. Consistency between words and actions, courage to be honest, even when it is difficult, and the integrity to honor commitments. I have forgiven Emma and Jason, not for their benefit but for my own peace. Carrying anger would only allow their betrayal to claim more of my life than it already had. This forgiveness does not mean welcoming them back into my life, or forgetting what happened. It simply means releasing the burden of bitterness that would otherwise weigh me down. Have you ever experienced betrayal by someone you deeply trusted? How did you rebuild your life afterward? Share your story in the comments below. If this journey of discovery, pain, and rebuilding resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video so others going through similar situations can find it. Consider sharing with someone who might be struggling to find their way forward after betrayal. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes losing toxic relationships is not a loss at all, but the first step toward the authentic life you deserve. Stay strong, keep your integrity, and trust that better days lie ahead.